Praise the Lord, everybody. We're so glad to be back with you again on another radio broadcast here in this new year, seeing that this is the third Sunday in January, and we all are here with smiles. Y'all smile. But we're just glad. We appreciate you allowing us to come into your home or in your car or wherever you are as you go along the way. And as you know, this is Pastor Burson, pastor of Greater Faith and Love Ministries, 1225 8th Street. We invite you all to be with us on Sundays at 10:30. And with the proliferation and the surge of COVID again, we have gone back to wearing masks and social distancing. So we do encourage you to bring your mask and expect to be socially distant during our service. At this time, before I go any further, I'm going to let my co-host introduce himself and say good morning to you. Go ahead, Lady Burson.
Good morning to everyone out there in Radio Land. Thank God for another chance and opportunity to come on the air, to go into your homes or wherever you may be, to hopefully say something that we can inspire you, to educate you on some things or some principles that you can put into place to help you have a successful, loving, kind marriage or relationship that you're in. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Good morning and be blessed.
Go ahead, Pastor Lee.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Pastor Lee. I'm so glad to be here this morning, and it is a pleasure to be here with friends and family. We just here this morning to help you to deal with life and to have a successful relationship or marriage or just family things. But we thank God again for you tuning in, and we're here to help you today. Thank you.
We have a very exciting program for you today. And before we really get into that, I would like to first of all thank a few of our donors. We're thankful to Loretta Burson for the donation that she gave us, and to Beverly Page. We're thankful for that. We had a $50 donation that was given anonymously. We're grateful. We do want to encourage you to help us. As you know, we've said it so many times before, these sessions are not free radio time costs, but nonetheless, we know that this is our ministry. We're doing what it takes in order for us to fulfill our assignment that God has given us in making marriage better, making relationships better. And today, we're coming with the fact that in some cases, relationships must end in order for things to be better. That's just a fact of life. As we said before, 38% of Christian marriages end in divorce. It is said 50%, but I told you before, when they really consider those who are practicing Christianity, because so many people today say they are Christians just because they said, Lord, forgive me for my sins, but they don't practice it. But most practicing Christians do try to pray and ask God for directions and guidance, and even with that, 38% of them still end in divorce. So there is a time where it comes, you must walk away. And what we are dealing with today is domestic violence. How to escape a domestic violent relationship. There is a way out. And we're so happy to have a special guest with us today who her ministry and expertise are in how to escape domestic violence. She is a victim herself. So those of you who are listening, she's not one that just rattling off statistics or giving resources, but she's one that knows the experience of being in a violent, dangerous, abusive relationship. And this is one of the reasons, Pastor Lee, why we address this, because people's life is on the line.
That's right.
This is not something that's just played and just, gloss over like we have been through the church and through society. It's something some people say they don't want to get involved, but many have died as a result of domestic violence. So we have with us today Carmen Ruiz. And we're going to at first hear, Pastor Lee, what you want to do with Carmen?
I just would like for Carmen, first of all, we appreciate her being here, first of all, and she's going to be a big help to us and to you. But at this time, we just like for her to introduce herself, tell us about something about herself and what she do and what she has been through. Carmen.
My name is Carmen Ruiz, and I am a local business owner, but I'm also a domestic violence survivor. Was married for 8 years, and really went through it in the church. You know, it was my safe place, but also a hard place to be. And filed for divorce about 4 years ago. It was a very hard decision to make from a Christian perspective, and being a godly woman, it was very hard to make that decision.
Let me ask you something, Carmen, and we're going to get into that, but I do want them to let us know what you do today. What are you doing today?
I'm a local businesswoman, so I own the Fast Signs of Daytona Beach here on 3rd and Nova. We're a visual communications company that provides signage, indoor, outdoor, lighted, non-lighted, and we help you, you know, show the world who you are as a customer through
You
visual
actually say you're the owner?
I'm the owner. I'm one of the owners. I am
One of the
owners, yes.
Okay, we've done much business with you. I'm
Yes.
so glad to see your business tremendously growing.
Yes.
So that means you're doing something good.
Yeah, I got a great staff,
Yeah,
for sure.
okay then. And Lady Burson wanted to ask you something here before we actually ask you your experience. She wanted to ask you a question here. And what constitutes...
Okay. Carmen, can you please enlighten our listening audience? What constitutes abuse or violence or domestic violence? And give us some signs of domestic violence and abuse.
Yeah, I think most people obviously know that there's a physical aspect of that, and then there is the things that maybe people don't quite identify as abuse. Control, you know, gaslighting. So you may say something and that person totally twists what you're saying. They oftentimes make you feel like make you go back on your words. Like, that's not really what I meant, but I'm sorry you took it that way. Mental abuse. So, you know, the degrading of somebody's personal character through words and action. Oftentimes we just kind of highlight the physical part, and I think that's something that is very valid.
Right.
But there's so much more of that mental and emotional and verbal abuse, that the constant fighting, the yelling.
Yes.
That is abuse. I mean, that's an abusive situation to be in, regardless of it being a woman or a man that may be inciting that kind of behavior. That's not healthy, and it's also very dangerous. You're not in the right mind in that situation.
These are signs that you're saying.
About
Yes.
jealousy,
Jealousy,
controlling,
controlling,
wanting to know where you are
All the time.
all the time, want to isolation from
Isolation
family,
from family.
or friends, you know.
Trying to change you too. I mean, I think like a lot of people don't realize, they're like, oh, you know what? I have, you know, lunch with my girlfriends every Thursday. Now this person suddenly convinces you that that's not really a thing that you do when you're in a relationship. Well, you know, that's not necessarily true. Like, almost like, I always tell people, if you can identify a boundary that you're very uncomfortable with that another person has set, give a step back and kind of reflect on that. Because a lot of times, like, we just assume, okay, well, that's what it takes to be with this person. But if it's a boundary that makes you uncomfortable, back up and kind of reflect on what that boundary is, and does it make sense?
Let me ask you this, Carmen. I'd like to know, how did you meet your husband? You know, how did you guys met? And was there any signs of abuse prior to your marriage?
Yeah. We met in high school, and we were just friends through high school. I moved away. We had no romantic interests. And then I came back home for the holiday and ran into him at age 25. And through that time, I'd really not dated at all. I had one relationship, and it was a mediocre relationship. It wasn't anything to write home about. And that's another whole other problem, right? And then when I met him in the dating process, he was very jealous. But it wasn't explosive. He would just communicate with me things that made him uncomfortable. He bought me a computer so that we could fall asleep on the computer at night, so he could see me go to sleep. And he just, but at the moment, I didn't realize that, because at the moment, the conversation was very nice. I just want to stay and talk to you all night.
Yes.
But really what he was doing was making sure that he knew where I was and what I was doing.
That was before you married?
That was before we got married. And then when we got married, it was very quick. It was like, listen, we need to get married this weekend. Like, nobody can know that we're getting married. We actually eloped. So it was like, it came out of nowhere. I want to be with you. Like, we need to make this happen. Then we can have the big wedding and everybody can be there. So we ran off and we eloped, and it was very much out of my character to do that. But I felt very pressured that if I didn't do that, it was going to be over.
Wow.
So
that was like a controlling aspect there.
That I-
It
I
already
just-
began controlling you.
right, but it was always done in a way of
Something.
of love. I love
Oh.
you so much. I can't
Okay,
live without
okay.
you.
Yes.
And that's a sign
Yes.
too. Like, I don't want anybody that can't live without me.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
That's true.
Really.
I tell my wife,
Don't
quick,
love me that much.
Don't love me that much. Yeah.
I tell my wife, quick, do not love me to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I ain't worth it.
Love has boundaries.
I'm
Healthy
not
love
worth
has
it.
boundaries.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
I'm not worth it.
yeah. So I
So it just made it sound so romantic. So you was kind of like naive.
I was
You was so caught up in it.
romanticized.
Yeah, like most women
Most
are.
women are.
Yeah.
And men, but most women are. They don't see signs. And this is why we've talked over our radio broadcast that you need others to know this person before you marry them.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to ask others that know him or know her before you marry them, because you're so caught up in the romanticism, the euphoria. You know, there are actually chemicals in your brain that love
yeah.
do become blinded.
Right.
That old proverb say love is blinded. It literally blinds you.
Right.
And things that was there all the time, you
Didn't
missed.
see.
Right. Sometimes like you'll hear like people will be like, in my case, he never just dropped off a flower at my desk. Like, he would have my whole office filled with flowers, right?
Wow.
So the whole world is looking at you going, you're so lucky. Oh, my
yeah.
gosh. But he
Yeah,
was
well,
really,
yeah.
he was love bombing me.
Wow.
Because it's not something that most people don't have those acts of love. I mean, it's like, 25-year anniversaries, they may do something like that, but it's not constant. So the love bombing was so big that, like, I just thought, okay, well, I can't lose this. I'll never have this again.
So you followed through with this elope thing.
Getting eloped.
Just on the spur of the moment,
Spur
let's
of the
do
moment. Something I would never do. I'm very close to my family, so hiding something like that was so hard. It was very
Well,
hard.
Pastor Lee, what would you ask her?
Actually, I think she almost got into that, and my next question was how long after the marriage before the abuse started? I think you started getting into that. So,
How long did it take
long?
before
How
The
long?
real
you
abuse.
found yourself really
became
being
aware.
We
battered?
we got married, so we eloped in November. We told our families in December, and then January 27th, we moved into our new apartment.
Okay.
2 weeks later, he hit me for the first time.
2 weeks
2
after
weeks.
marriage?
2 weeks after marriage.
Physically battered you.
Physically.
It wasn't verbal, it was physical.
Physically. Grabbed me by the hair. I ran off. Before I knew it, I was at the bottom of my closet getting kicked in the stomach. Yeah.
And what as you recall, what initiated it? What was his justification?
Well, there was no justification.
I mean,
there was.
what was the reason, or did he give a reason?
He was really living two lives. He had been dating somebody prior to him and I making our relationship official, and had not told that person that he had ran off and got married. So he was trying to end that relationship, and it started an argument. So I felt like I was right addressing the issue, and then suddenly I saw a shift in him not wanting to be questioned about something that was wrong. And honestly, in the moment, I knew something was gonna happen. I turned away, and he grabbed me by my ponytail, and I just got away. That's how I ended up in my closet. I ran off into my closet. So I knew it was gonna happen, even though he had never touched me before. It's like I just knew by the look on his face that I'd crossed the boundary by challenging that situation.
And how often would the abuse? I assume it was verbal and physical. But how often was the physical abuse or the battering? The literal battering.
The first 2 years, it was often. I would say the first like 3 to 6 months, it was very often. And then we started to get some counseling, and it was the wrong counseling situation, and it became, further and further. So I felt like he was really working on it. Like, we're working on this thing together, right? So I thought that there was progress, even though it was still very much happening. I felt like, okay, well, it's not every other week now. Now it's like 3 weeks in between, or a month in between. So I felt like there was progress, and that was a bad thing to think anyways. But, and then there was 2 years in our marriage where there was no physical abuse. And I thought we had, jumped over a major hurdle.
Let me ask you, was that a result of the counseling though?
It was a result of us telling an elder in our church what was happening.
Okay,
So there was accountability.
okay.
And that person then moved on to another church, and that accountability went away. Even though other people in the church knew what was happening, they didn't hold him accountable. So he no longer had that accountability. Now, he needed to create that for himself. That wasn't something that other people, but I think in the beginning, just like any other issue, you have people around you that encourage you to walk a different path or to behave in a different way, So he had a lot of turmoil in his home life, in his family life. So I think, it's like reteaching a person how to behave in society, right? And now you have 2 people married, 2 totally different people. It's like putting 2 countries together, and you ask them to get along, right?
Right. So are you saying that did he experience abuse in his
As a
setting?
child, growing
As a
up.
child?
Yeah.
So it is a fact, according to statistics, that most abusers
Abusers have
were abused or was exposed to abuse. So that's one of the, I would say that's one of the reasons why you would suggest women do not stay in a situation with children, keeping children in a situation like that.
Right, children or no children. Because I think for me, another reason why I stayed was that I didn't have children. I was like, well, it's just me. I can do this. I can overcome this. But I think really, it is an individual walk, just like anything else. If you've got something to overcome, like, you got to overcome that individually. Like, your salvation is individual.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But when you're talking about life or death, where you can kill somebody, you don't know.
True.
A lot of things that happen in domestic violence situations are not as they're not as it's not as black and white as, oh, somebody shot that person, or sometimes it's somebody hit that person and it went too far, and it's all too far, it's all too dangerous.
Any little bit, any amount is too much. That's what you said.
When somebody
Any
can't
amount is too
restrain
much.
themselves from physically harming another person,
It's too much.
they don't know how to stop. They've already told you, hey, you know what? I don't understand this boundary. So I don't, if you don't understand this boundary, I don't know that you're not going to cross the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's really important to, I think, seek help.
Should you make the boundaries before all of this occurred? Should you set boundaries before, although you don't know that the abuses may happen, but there are boundaries that we should set before? Or
Let me rephrase this.
Okay.
Say for instance, the first time this happened to you, should you not say, look, you do this one more time, it's over with, and follow up on? Wouldn't you suggest that to a woman? Because most time a woman, I would assume, or even a man, they may not just leave the first time or say let's get counseling the first time. But would you suggest? I'm sure you might say the first time they should leave, but for those dealing with your question about boundaries, Lee, shouldn't you suggest that once you see this and it becomes physical, to really say, well, this is it. You do this again, I'm out of here.
I think you need to be out of there the first time.
Okay.
Because I think it just, again, it's that boundary that if somebody crosses that boundary, they don't really know how to set or maintain boundaries. So they got to learn that on their own.
Yeah,
You know,
because it's
and-
gonna happen again.
Right, and that's the
Maybe
hard
worse.
part of, in the Christian world, right, we don't talk about divorce. So it's wanting to not, you don't want to be that girl. Nobody wants to be that woman that walks into church and walks away from her husband. I mean, that's just the truth. That's how I felt. Most churches, ministries are around marriage.
True.
So it's like you hear all this other stuff, but you don't really hear that as a clear conversation.
True.
So it's like you don't really know how to deal with it. You don't know what to do, and you take it upon yourself to say, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of grace because you are a godly man that's suffering with this, so let's figure this out together.
That's
But it's
what you
not.
did.
That's what I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I called his mom, you know, that same night I called his mom, and the first thing she said to me was, what did you do to make him so angry? So I
Wow.
immediately thought I must have done something.
Wow.
So sometimes it's even how we have those conversations, but we don't realize those little things can just, I mean,
She defended her son.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Right.
That's virtually what she did. She
That's what
defended her
happened to
son.
a lot of women back in the olden days. You know, they didn't have an outlet in most families because they didn't believe in divorce. They didn't believe in you leaving or breaking up a marriage, no matter what was going on in that marriage.
Right.
They were taught to stay there and simple, and that's not good because it could cost you your life.
Well, it has cost a lot of women lives.
That's right.
I don't know the steps.
But it was the
how many
mentality
killed
back
decades,
then,
years, but I'm
stay
sure
in
quite a
that
few-
marriage.
Quite a few deaths are accounted to domestic abuse.
Right.
Yes.
In 2019, Volusia County said that there were 7 deaths due to domestic violence.
That's just
That's
in Volusia
reported.
County.
That's the ones
That's
that
And that's
were-
just
were
reported.
reported.
So to me, that's a lot.
So it's kind of shameful for the church, and I want to give you this opportunity to take this lightly, or
Yeah.
to overlook it, not to address it, because we believe in life, and we believe in the preservation of life, and we want to talk about abortion. So we should address the abuse,
Oh,
the
yeah.
domestic violence. And tell me, Carmen, what do you think? What are you suggesting that the church, what should we do as a church to be proactive in addressing this issue?
I think it's something that should come up in pre-marriage counseling. I think it's a whole conversation, you know, about jealousy, control, and what are those really safe boundaries to stay in. Individuality, what does that look like, right? When we get married, we don't just belong to somebody. I mean, we together are building a life, and you don't just stop losing who
Your
you
own
are,
self, yeah.
right? So I think that's a great opportunity with people in the church to have that pre-marriage counseling. And then from the pulpit is, you know, talking about domestic violence with the words domestic violence, with what it does to a marriage, and saying, hey, you know what? This is not a safe place to be, and if this happens, we want you to come to us, and we're going to put you with people with resources available that can help you, you know, get out of that marriage. Number one, it holds people accountable. If you love someone and you are struggling with anger, and this is how you demonstrate it, and you don't want to lose that person, I'm going to guess half of those people are going to say, hey, you know what, I need help because I really feel angry. I haven't hit her yet, but honestly, there's just days where I feel like you may be able to intercede something before it happens, or help that person get counseling for anger issues, and then also help her, you know, having that conversation with that person, or vice versa. It happens to men too, having that conversation saying, hey, is everything okay? Is everything, I know you guys are struggling with this, so is everything good? Is everything safe? You know? That
So in a way,
opportunity.
you're saying that as pastors or as friends in a church, we need to get nosy. If we see some signs, we need to be nosy.
Yeah.
Ask.
I think that's the time to be nosy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's- yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Because, you know, we live in a time today, you always say, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. I don't feel like I broke up their marriage. You know, and that's the mindset sometimes of leaders or even friends. I don't want to feel like I broke up their marriage. So they kind of withdraw and they see it, but they don't want to get involved. Relatives. I mean, what would you say, Carmen, in that situation when you say, I don't want to get involved? Because you got often relatives can see what's going on.
Yeah.
What role should they play? And I hate to use the word play because it sounds so insignificant, but I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think it's providing that space of, this is a safe place to come to when you're ready, right? It all comes down to when you're ready. When you're ready, we are here. When you're ready, we'll take you in for a couple days while we get you, you know, the resources to kind of get you over this hump. When you're ready, we're here to talk. It's the church is in the place of saving lives, right? So if you don't look at it as breaking up marriages or taking something away, really what you're doing is you're providing another opportunity to have a successful marriage before it happens. Boundaries, in my opinion, are set before they happen. We do that every single day when we talk about marriages.
I want to talk about the resources because this is what a lot of people don't know. A lot of leaders, a lot of church people do not know about. There are resources for women who want to escape. As we say, there is a way out. And that's your whole objective, is to let people know that there is a way. Let ladies know if you need to leave, first of all. Okay, and let them know when you leave, this is available for you. Go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, so here locally in Volusia County, there's one certified domestic violence counsel, and that's the Beacon Center. And the Beacon Center is often referred to as a shelter, but it's not just a shelter. The other thing that's important to know is that you do not have to file charges against somebody to receive help. So a lot of women do not go to resources that can help them overcome this situation because they're afraid to get that partner in trouble or affect their life long term, or what the retaliation would be. You can call the Beacon Center and they will give you the same resources as if you needed a shelter or as if you were pressing charges. You don't have to do that at all. They're not going to force you to do that. They're just there. They're there to help you successfully see yourself out of this situation. Now, if you decide that you want to press charges, they will help you with that process. They'll also help you with advocates at the courthouse to make sure that you have all the information that you need to be safe exiting the situation.
And some of the things that women need when they do exit situation like that. What about a place to stay? What about money for bills or for food for their children? What are resources?
The Beacon Center helps with those things. They help put them through like debt reconciliation and all that stuff, because a lot of times the person is in charge of their finances. They have to leave their job because they know where they work. So they do help with that. But honestly, families move mountains, you know what I mean? My mountain was moved with my tribe. They really rallied behind me, and I didn't need it right away, but after a couple of months I really started to feel the strain, and they were there for me.
Your family.
My family, yeah.
Get on their feet. Yeah.
When you say Beacon Center, is that just one particular place, or is there other places besides the Beacon Center?
There are other places. I mean, you've got the hotlines, the domestic violence hotline online that you can look at online. You can call 24/7, and you can exit out, and it doesn't record in history. So if they check, they can't see that you've been on that webpage. But locally, the Beacon Center is the only certified, and what I like about it is they've got advocates that are trained. So, to me, a certified center like the Beacon Center, they're going to tell you the right way every day.
I need you to give us, if you have a hotline number, because a lot of our listeners are not in Daytona, not even in the state of Florida. But I'm sure there's a national hotline that probably can put them in touch with some type of organization or entity that's within the city that they are in, that they can seek help. What would that hotline be? What would that number be?
I don't know it off the top of my head.
You don't know
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, but the Beacon Center number is 386-255-2101. You can text or call there 24/7. If you're not in the state or if you're not local, they'll give you a place to call. But the national hotline is available online, and they can talk to you.
I'm sure Google knows.
Yeah, Google.
Yeah, I'm sure Google. They can,
Alexa.
Yeah, Alexa, Siri. I'm sure they know. And in all seriousness, we do want to encourage anyone finding themselves in this situation. What you share with us, the whole bottom line is get out.
Get out. Get help.
Get help.
Yeah.
There is help available.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure if they were to call the national hotline for abuse women, I would assume if you tell Google that, or Siri, or Alexa, they'll know what you're talking about. Call them, and I'm sure that they will be able to give you some resource that's close to you in order to get out of this dire strait relationship. And we're so grateful for you, Carmen. We're so thankful that you've come and shared with us. It means a lot, and we are a ministry that want to address all issues of making marriage better. And we pray that those of you that have heard us have been blessed, have been educated, elevated, and hopefully inspired to do something. And we're speaking to the abuser. Those of you who are doing the abuse, get help.
Yeah.
Seek help, because help is available. God bless you. God keep you. We'll always be our prayer. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.